Eliza May Mercer pressed her mother's music box against her chest and counted the coins one more time. 43 cents. Uncle Franklin had promised the stagecoach fare was paid. He'd promised someone would come. But the station master just laughed and walked away, leaving her alone in the howling blizzard. She was 10 years old. The temperature had dropped past 20 below, and nobody was coming. If you want to know how one little girl's fight for survival became a battle that shook an entire territory, subscribe to our channel and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The wind hit like fists. Eliza curled tighter on the wooden bench, her mother's music box clutched against her ribs. The tiny mechanism had stopped playing hours ago, too cold to work, but she held it anyway. It was the only thing Uncle Franklin hadn't sold. 43 cents. She'd counted them 6 times now. 6 times hoping the number would change. 6 times watching her breath turn to ice crystals in the lamplight. The station master had laughed when she showed him the note. "Prepaid fare?" He'd snorted, scratching his belly through his stained vest. "Ain't nothing prepaid here, girl. Your uncle's a liar or a fool. Maybe both." But he said, "I don't care what he said. No money, no ticket. Stage ain't running tonight anyway. Blizzard's too bad." He'd looked at her, then really looked, and something had flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been pity if he'd been a different kind of man. "You got people coming for you." "Yes, sir." The lie had come easy. Easier than the truth. "Then wait here. Lockups at midnight. After that, you're on your own." That was 4 hours ago. The lamp above her head had died 2 hours back. The station master had left at midnight, just like he'd said, locking the door behind him without a backward glance. She'd found a broken window around the side, crawled through, cut her palm on the glass. The blood had frozen before she could wipe it away. Now she sat in the dark, listening to the storm tear at the walls, and tried to remember what warm felt like. Uncle Franklin's face kept swimming up in her mind. The way he'd smiled when he put her on the stagecoach in Cheyenne. The way he'd pressed 43 cents into her palm and said, "For emergencies, Eliza. The fare's already paid. Someone will meet you in Redwater." She'd believed him. She'd wanted to believe him. "Stupid," she whispered. Her lips cracked when she moved them. "Stupid, stupid, stupid." The music box was frozen solid now. She couldn't feel her fingers well enough to wind it even if she wanted to. But she held it anyway because it had been Mama's, and Mama had never lied to her. Mama had never left her alone in a blizzard to die. Something changed in the sound of the wind. A rhythm underneath the howling. Hoofbeats. Eliza didn't move. Couldn't move. Her body had stopped responding to commands somewhere around the 3rd hour. But her eyes tracked toward the door, watching, waiting. The hoofbeats stopped. A man's voice, rough and deep. "Hello, anyone in there?" She tried to answer. Her jaw wouldn't work. Her tongue felt thick, frozen foreign in her mouth. "I saw the broken window. I know someone's in there." A pause. "I ain't gonna hurt you. Just checking the station. Making sure no one got caught in the storm." The door handle rattled. Locked. "Damn fool station master," the voice muttered. Then, "I'm coming in through the window. Don't be scared." Eliza heard boots crunching on snow, heard glass scraping, heard a grunt of effort as someone pulled themselves through the broken frame. Then lamplight. The man held a lantern high, and Eliza saw him in pieces. Snow-covered hat, gray hair underneath. A face like weathered leather, deep lines carved by wind and sun and years of hard living. Blue-gray eyes that swept the room once, twice, and then found her on the bench. Those eyes went wide. Jesus Christ. He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees in front of her. The lantern clinked against the floor as he set it down. His hands came up, hovering near her face, but not quite touching. "Can you hear me? Can you understand what I'm saying?" Eliza tried to nod, manage something that might have been movement. "How long you been here?" She couldn't answer, couldn't remember. Time had stopped meaning anything when the lamp went out. The man's jaw tightened. He pulled off his gloves, pressed 2 fingers against her neck. Whatever he felt made his face go hard. All right, we're gonna get you out of here." He was already shrugging off his coat, a massive thing lined with sheepskin. He wrapped it around her shoulders, and Eliza gasped. The warmth was almost painful, like needles driving into her skin. "I know," he said. "I know it hurts. That's good. Means you can still feel." He reached for her hands, and she flinched back without meaning to. The music box clattered against the bench. The man froze. His eyes dropped to the little wooden box. Eliza watched his face change, watched something pass over it that she didn't understand. Shock, recognition, pain. "Where did you get that?" His voice had gone strange, tight, like he was holding something back. "It was my mama's." "Your mama's." He reached toward the music box, then stopped himself. "What's your name, child?" "Eliza. Eliza May Mercer." The man made a sound. Not quite a word. Something rawer than that. He sat back on his heels, and for a long moment he just looked at her. Really looked. The way the station master hadn't. "Mercer," he said finally. "William Mercer's daughter." It wasn't a question. Eliza nodded anyway. "Your daddy and I were partners." The words came out rough scraped. "He never told you about me. Papa died 3 years ago." I know he did." The man's hands were shaking, not from cold. "I'm Thomas Hartley. Tom. Your daddy and I built Rimrock Ranch together. We were—" He stopped, swallowed. "He was my best friend." Eliza stared at him. Papa had talked about Rimrock sometimes, late at night when the whiskey made him sad instead of angry. He'd talked about the ranch, about the cattle, about a partner who was more like a brother than any bloodkin he'd ever had. He'd never said the partner's name. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. "What?" Uncle Franklin said. He said everyone at Rimrock died in a blizzard. Years ago. He said there was no one left. Tom Hartley's face went very still. "Your uncle," he said carefully, "is a lying son of a bitch." He stood up and Eliza saw how big he was. Not just tall, broad, built like the men who broke horses and moved cattle and didn't stop working until the work was done. "Can you walk?" She tried to stand. Her legs buckled immediately. Tom caught her before she hit the floor, scooping her up like she weighed nothing at all. "Hold on to that music box. We've got a ways to ride." The horse waiting outside was massive. 17 hands at least, breath steaming white in the frozen air. Tom lifted Eliza into the saddle, then swung up behind her. His arms came around to hold the reins, blocking the worst of the wind. "There's a ranch about 6 miles west," he said. "Warm house, hot food. My sister Hannah to look after you proper." Eliza wanted to ask questions, wanted to understand how she'd ended up here in a blizzard being rescued by her dead father's not dead partner. But the warmth of the horse, the solid presence of Tom's chest at her back, the exhaustion of hours spent waiting to die, it all pressed down on her at once. "Why were you out here?" The words slurred together. "In the storm?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "I come to check the station every time there's a bad blow," he said finally. "Ever since your daddy died in that blizzard. He got caught out, you know, between Rimrock and town. I found him too late." Another pause. "I ain't gonna find anyone too late again." Eliza's eyes closed. The last thing she heard before sleep took her was Tom's voice, low and fierce. "What kind of man leaves a child to freeze?" The ranch house blazed with light. Eliza saw it through half-closed eyes as Tom carried her up the porch steps. A door banging open. A woman's voice sharp with worry. Tom, what in God's name?" Found her at the station, alone, in this cold. Hands taking her from Tom's arms. Softer hands. A woman's face swimming into view. Gray hair pulled back tight. Eyes the same blue-gray as Tom's. Sweet mercy. Bring her by the stove. Miguel, get blankets, water, not too hot. Heat hit Eliza like a wall. She cried out, couldn't help it. The burning spread through her fingers, her toes everywhere the cold had sunk deep. I know, sweetheart. I know it hurts. The woman was peeling off Eliza's frozen coat, replacing it with quilts. I'm Hannah, Tom's sister. You're safe now. Safe? The word didn't make sense. Eliza couldn't remember the last time she'd felt safe. Her name's Eliza. Tom's voice came from somewhere behind her. William's daughter. Hannah stopped moving. William Mercer. Yeah. Oh, Tom. The woman's voice had changed, gone soft with something Eliza didn't understand. Oh, that poor child. A Mexican man appeared with more blankets, a steaming mug. Hannah took the mug, tested the temperature, held it to Eliza's lips. Broth. Just sip. Your stomach's too cold for anything else. The heat burned going down. Eliza drank anyway. Tom was saying something to Hannah. Eliza caught fragments. Station master said no prepaid fare. Uncle left her there. 43 cents in her pocket. Hannah's face went hard as iron. Her uncle did this. Franklin Mercer, William's brother. I remember him. Came around after William died. Asked about the partnership, about the ranch. Hannah's jaw tightened. Asked a lot of questions about money. Yeah, well, now I'm asking some questions of my own. Tom crouched beside Eliza, his weathered face level with hers. Where's your uncle now, child? Cheyenne. The word came out thick. He lives in Cheyenne. And he put you on a stagecoach alone in this weather? Eliza nodded. The memory was coming back now, sharp and clear despite the fog of exhaustion. Uncle Franklin's smile. Uncle Franklin's hands pushing her toward the coach. Uncle Franklin saying, Be a good girl, Eliza. Do what you're told at St. Catherine's. They'll teach you to be useful. He was sending me to an orphanage, she whispered. St. Catherine's, in Helena. Tom's face did something complicated. Why? He said he couldn't afford to keep me anymore. He said I ate too much and cost too much and... She stopped. Some things were too hard to say out loud. Hannah's hand found her shoulder. Warm. Gentle. It's all right, sweetheart. You don't have to explain. But I do. Eliza looked up at Tom, at this stranger who'd ridden into a blizzard to check on an empty station, at her father's partner, who should have been dead but wasn't. I don't understand. Uncle Franklin said you died. He said everyone at Rimrock died years ago. He said that's why he had to take me in because there was no one else. Tom's jaw worked. I ain't dead, he said. And if I'd known you existed, I'd have come for you the day William passed. You didn't know. Your daddy never told me he had a daughter. Pain flickered in those gray eyes. We had a falling out toward the end, stupid argument over cattle prices. We stopped talking for a while. I was gonna make it right, gonna ride out to see him, but then the blizzard hit and... He stopped. I found him in the snow, too late to save him. And your uncle showed up at the funeral talking about how William had no family left, no one to inherit. He lied. Yeah, he lied. Hannah stood abruptly. Tom, come here. She'd moved to Eliza's carpet bag the small battered case Franklin had shoved into her hands at the last moment. Hannah had it open on the table. Inside was almost nothing. A dress too small by 2 sizes, a hairbrush missing half its bristles, and a bundle of papers tied with string. Hannah untied the string, read the first page. Her face went white. Tom, you need to see this. He took the papers. Eliza watched his eyes move across the words, watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to something that looked like rage. What is it? she asked. Tom didn't answer right away. He read the document again, then looked at her with eyes gone cold and hard. "This is a letter from the Territorial Bank in Cheyenne." His voice was flat. "It says your daddy sold his half of Rimrock Ranch before he died. Sold it to me. And the money from that sale, $15,000, was put in trust for you." $15,000. Eliza couldn't comprehend it. Couldn't make the number mean anything real. "Your uncle's your legal guardian," Tom continued. "That means he controls the trust until you turn 18. He can withdraw funds for your care and education." A muscle jumped in his jaw. "And according to this letter, he's been trying to liquidate the entire trust for months. Bank won't let him do it without proving hardship. So he dumped her at a station in a blizzard." Hannah's voice was ice. "Let her freeze. Collect the money as her grieving uncle." "Can't collect if she's at an orphanage." "Can if she never makes it there." The words hung in the air. Eliza understood suddenly. Understood why Uncle Franklin had smiled when he put her on that stagecoach. Why he'd given her 43 cents and a lie about prepaid fare. Why he'd chosen the worst blizzard of the winter. He hadn't been sending her to an orphanage. He'd been sending her to die. "I want to see the papers." Her voice came out stronger than she expected. "Please." Tom handed them over. The letters swam in front of Eliza's eyes she couldn't read. Uncle Franklin had never let her learn, but she recognized numbers. Recognized the figure at the bottom of the page. $15,000. Her father had left her $15,000, and her uncle had tried to kill her for it. "I ain't letting him get away with this." Tom's voice cut through her thoughts. "First thing after the storm clears, I'm riding into Redwater, filing for custody, getting this made legal." "On what grounds?" Hannah asked. "He's blood kin. Territorial law. Territorial law allows for exceptions when blood kin proves unfit." Tom's eyes met Eliza's. "And I'd say leaving a child to freeze qualifies. Franklin has lawyers, money, connections." Hannah shook her head. "He's not going to let $15,000 walk away without a fight." "Then we give him a fight." Tom crouched down again, putting himself at Eliza's eye level. "Your daddy and I made a deal when we started Rimrock. We'd always look after each other's families. Always. I broke that deal when I didn't know you existed. I ain't breaking it now." Eliza stared at him. At this man she'd never met. At this stranger who'd ridden into a blizzard for her. At her father's partner, who was promising to fight for her when her own blood had tried to kill her. "Why?" she whispered. Tom's hand came up, touched her cheek briefly. "Because your daddy would have done the same for mine," he said. "And because some things are worth fighting for. You're one of them." Eliza's eyes burned. She hadn't cried when Uncle Franklin hit her, hadn't cried when he sold her mother's jewelry, hadn't cried when he put her on that stagecoach and left her to die. But she cried now. Tom didn't try to stop her, didn't tell her everything would be all right. Just sat there, solid and steady, while she sobbed into his sheepskin coat. And Hannah stood behind them both, already planning the war that was coming. 3 days later, the storm broke. Eliza woke to silence the absence of wind. The strange stillness that came after a blizzard spent itself. Sunlight poured through the window of the little room Hannah had given her, and for a moment she didn't remember where she was. Then it came back. The station. The cold. Tom's arms carrying her through the snow. She sat up slowly. Her fingers and toes still ached, but the dangerous burning had faded. Hannah had checked them twice a day, rubbing salve into the damaged skin, clicking her tongue at the old frostbite scars that predated the blizzard. "Uncle didn't believe in doctors," Eliza had said. Hannah had said nothing, but her eyes had gone dark in a way Eliza was starting to recognize. Now Eliza pulled on the dress Hannah had altered to fit her, one of Hannah's own cut down and re-hemmed. It was plain but clean, warmer than anything Uncle Franklin had ever given her. She found her way to the kitchen, Tom was there, already dressed, already eating. He looked up when she came in. "Morning. Sleep all right?" Eliza nodded. "Good. We're riding into Redwater today. Need to file papers with the territorial court." Tom pushed a plate toward her. "Eat first. It's a long ride." Hannah came in from the parlor, a bundle of documents in her hand. "I've been going through everything," she said. "The trust fund papers, the guardianship records Franklin sent with her. There's something wrong." "Wrong how?" "The guardianship was granted in Cheyenne. But William died here in Powder River Territory. The claim should have been filed here." Hannah spread the papers on the table. "Franklin went to a different jurisdiction. Got a judge who didn't know William didn't know us. Got the guardianship pushed through before anyone could contest." Tom's jaw tightened. "So, it might not be valid?" "I don't know. We need a real lawyer to look at this. Someone who knows territorial law." Hannah hesitated. "There's one other thing." She pulled a folded paper from the bottom of the stack. "This was in William's old partnership agreement, the one you two signed when you started the ranch. Look at Section 7. Tom took the paper, read it. His face changed. "What is it?" Eliza asked. "It's a succession clause." Tom's voice had gone rough. "William and I agreed that if either of us died without direct heirs, our share of the ranch would go to the other. But if there were heirs..." He looked at Eliza. "If there were children, the surviving partner would act as guardian, automatically, without any court involvement." "So you already have guardianship," Hannah said. "Legal guardianship. From a binding partnership agreement that predates Franklin's claim by 10 years. The kitchen went silent. Eliza watched Tom's face, watched hope and caution war across his weathered features. "Franklin might not know about this," Tom said slowly. "This agreement was filed in Redwater. He did everything through Cheyenne. He knows William sold his share to you. He has to know there was a partnership agreement." "Knowing there's an agreement and knowing what's in it are two different things." Tom folded the paper carefully. "We take this to Judge Tucker today. Get it on record. If Franklin comes looking for Eliza, he's going to find out he's got no legal ground to stand on. And if he fights anyway, then we fight back." Tom looked at Eliza. "This clause means your daddy wanted me to look after you. Wrote it down legal and proper years before you were even born. Franklin can't argue with that." Eliza's throat tightened. Her father had planned for this. Had planned for her. Had put her protection in writing before she even existed. He'd known somehow. Known that his brother couldn't be trusted. Known that if anything happened, she'd need someone else to stand for her. And he'd chosen Tom. "Get your coat," Tom said. "Tom, we've got a long ride ahead." The road to Redwater was buried under 3 feet of snow. Tom led the way on his gray stallion breaking trail. Miguel followed with the pack horse. Eliza rode with Hannah on a sturdy mare bundled in more layers than she'd ever worn in her life. The world was white and silent. Snow blanketed everything: the hills, the trees, the fence posts that marked Rimrock's boundaries. It was beautiful in a way that made Eliza's chest hurt. "Your daddy loved this land," Hannah said quietly. "He and Tom used to ride out together just to look at it, just to know it was theirs." "I don't remember much about him," Eliza admitted. "He died when I was 7. "What do you remember?" Eliza thought about it. "His hands. They were always rough like yours. And his laugh. He had a big laugh." She paused. "He used to tell me stories about a ranch in the mountains. I thought they were just stories. They were real. All of them." Hannah's arms tightened briefly around her. "Everything your daddy told you about this place, it's all real." They rode in silence for a while. The sun climbed higher, turning the snow to diamonds. "Miss Hannah." "Yes. What's going to happen now with Uncle Franklin, I mean?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Tom's going to file the partnership papers with Judge Tucker. That should establish his guardianship. But your uncle, he's not going to give up that trust fund without a fight." $15,000. "That's right." Eliza turned her mother's music box over in her hands. She'd been carrying it everywhere since the station. Couldn't seem to let it go. "I don't care about the money," she said. "I just don't want to go back to him." "You won't." Hannah's voice was firm. "Tom made a promise to your daddy, and Tom Hartley doesn't break his promises. Not ever." "How do you know?" "Because I've watched him keep every promise he's ever made for 58 years. Hannah's voice softened. "He promised our mother he'd look after me when she died. He promised our father he'd make something of himself. He promised William he'd always have a home at Rimrock." A pause. "And he promised himself after he found your daddy in that blizzard that he'd never let anyone freeze alone again. That's why he checks the station. Every time there's a bad storm, without fail." Eliza looked ahead at Tom's broad back, solid and steady in the saddle. He rode like a man who'd spent his whole life on horseback. Like a man who belonged here in this frozen white world. He'd ridden into a blizzard for her. A stranger. A child he'd never met. Because he'd made a promise to a dead man. And because some things were worth fighting for. Eliza held her music box tighter and watched the mountains grow closer on the horizon. Redwater was a small town trying hard to be bigger. Main Street had boardwalks on both sides, raised up out of the mud and snow. General store, feed shop, blacksmith, saloon, hotel. A white-painted church at one end, and a brick courthouse at the other. Tom tied up at the courthouse, helped Eliza down from Hannah's horse. "Stay close to me," he said. "Don't talk to anyone unless I say so." The courthouse was warm inside, heated by 2 iron stoves. A clerk sat behind a high desk, scratching away at a ledger. "Need to see Judge Tucker," Tom said. "Official business." The clerk looked up, recognized Tom. His eyebrows rose. "Mr. Hartley, didn't expect to see you in town today. Not after that storm." "Storm's why I'm here. Found something at the stage station that needs legal attention." The clerk's eyes slid to Eliza. Curiosity flickered there, and something else. "Judge is in his chambers. I'll let him know you're waiting." Tom nodded, guided Eliza to a bench against the wall. They sat in silence while the clerk disappeared through a heavy oak door. "Mr. Tom." "Yeah. What if the judge doesn't believe us? What if he says Uncle Franklin is my real guardian?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "Then we appeal," he said. "And if that doesn't work, we find another way. I ain't letting your uncle take you back, Eliza. Not now. Not ever. But the law is supposed to protect people." Tom's voice was hard. "Supposed to keep children safe from men like your uncle. If it doesn't do that, then the law is wrong, and we find a way around it." The oak door opened. The clerk reappeared. "Judge Tucker will see you now." Judge Elijah Tucker was old. Older than Tom, older than Hannah, older than anyone Eliza had ever seen. His hair was white as the snow outside his face, a map of wrinkles and age spots. But his eyes were sharp, blue and bright and missing nothing. "Tom Hartley." His voice was a deep rumble. "Been a while." "Judge, sit down. Tell me what's brought you out in weather like this." Tom sat, pulled Eliza down beside him, and told the story. He started at the beginning, the blizzard, the station finding Eliza alone with 43 cents and a lie. He showed the judge the trust fund papers, the guardianship documents from Cheyenne, the partnership agreement with its succession clause. Tucker listened without interrupting. His eyes moved from Tom to Eliza, to the papers and back again. When Tom finished, the old man sat in silence for a long moment. "William Mercer's daughter," he said finally. "I knew your father, child. Good man, honest man." He picked up the partnership agreement. "This clause is valid. Filed, proper, witnessed, proper part of a binding legal agreement. Under territorial law, it takes precedence over any subsequent guardianship claim." Eliza felt something loosen in her chest. "However," Tucker set the paper down. Franklin Mercer has a guardianship order from Cheyenne. That order was granted by a territorial judge. It can't simply be dismissed. Even if it was obtained fraudulently, Tom asked. Even if he lied about William having no heirs. It complicates matters. Tucker leaned back in his chair. I can issue a temporary order placing Eliza in your custody, pending a full hearing. But Franklin will contest it. He has that trust fund's too much money to walk away from. Then we contest right back. Tom. The judge's voice gentled. I want to help you. God knows I owe you enough. But the law is the law. Franklin's bloodkin. Courts favor blood relations. You're going to need more than a partnership agreement to win permanent custody. What about what he did? Leaving her at that station. Can you prove it? Tucker's eyes were sympathetic. Can you prove he intended to abandon her? Or will his lawyer argue he made good faith arrangements that fell through? The question hung in the air. Tom's jaw worked. I can prove she was neglected, he said finally. Doc Garrett can testify. Frostbite scars, malnutrition, old injuries that were never treated. That's got to count for something. It counts for a great deal. Tucker nodded slowly. Bring me the medical evidence. Bring me witnesses who can speak to Franklin's character. Bring me everything you've got, and I'll give you the fairest hearing I can. He paused. But understand this, Franklin will fight. He'll hire lawyers, call his own witnesses, make arguments you haven't thought of. And at the end of the day, a judge has to follow the law. Even when the law protects a man who tried to kill a child. Tucker's face hardened. The law isn't perfect, Tom. But it's what we've got. He picked up his pen. I'm issuing the temporary custody order now. Eliza stays with you until the hearing. I'll set a date for... He checked his calendar. March 15th. That gives you 6 weeks to build your case. And Franklin. I'll send word to Cheyenne. He'll be notified of the hearing and the temporary order. Tucker's eyes met Tom's. He's not going to like it. I don't much care what he likes. Tucker almost smiled. No, he said. I don't suppose you do. They were halfway back to Rimrock when Miguel spotted the riders, 3 men coming fast from the south. Not ranch hands, their horses were too fine, their coats too clean. Town men, city men. Tom pulled up. His hand dropped to the rifle on his saddle. Stay behind me, he told Eliza. The riders closed the distance. The lead man was young, maybe 30, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The other 2 were bigger, rougher, hired muscle. Mr. Hartley. The lead man tipped his hat. My name is Cornelius Vance. I represent Franklin Mercer in legal matters. Tom's expression didn't change. You're a long way from Cheyenne, Mr. Vance. I go where my clients need me. Vance's eyes slid to Eliza. Is that the Mercer girl? She's under my custody now. Judge Tucker's order. So I heard. Remarkable how quickly that order was issued. Almost as if someone knew exactly which buttons to push. Vance's smile widened. My client is concerned. He believes there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. He left this child to freeze. I found her. Now she's mine. Yours? Vance raised an eyebrow. She's not property, Mr. Hartley. She's a person. A person with a legal guardian who's very worried about her welfare. Her guardian tried to kill her. That's a serious accusation. Vance's voice hardened slightly. One you'll need to prove in court. Until then, Mr. Mercer retains his legal rights. His legal rights ended when he abandoned her. Did he? Vance spread his hands. Or did he make reasonable arrangements that unfortunately fell through? The stage lines are unreliable in winter. Things go wrong. Mistakes happen. He shook his head sadly. My client is devastated that his niece was put in danger. He wants nothing more than to reunite with her and make things right. Eliza's hands were shaking. She pressed them against the music box, trying to stop the trembling. "Mr. Vance?" Tom's voice was quiet, dangerous. "Get off my land. I'm simply here to deliver a message. My client will see you in court on March 15th. He'll be seeking full reinstatement of his guardianship and liquidation of his niece's trust fund to cover her care expenses." Vance smiled again. He's confident the law will prevail. The law. Tom's jaw tightened. The law is supposed to protect children from men like your client. The law protects families, Mr. Hartley. Blood relations. The natural order of things. Vance's eyes moved to Eliza one last time. "I'll see you in 6 weeks, Miss Mercer. Try to stay warm until then." He turned his horse and rode away. His men followed. Tom watched them go, his hand still on his rifle. "Miguel." "Boss, when we get back to the ranch, I want guards posted, day and night. No one comes on Rimrock land without my knowing about it." "Sí, patron." Tom turned to look at Eliza. His face was grim, but his voice was gentle. "That man's gonna throw everything he's got at us," he said. "Lawyers' money lies. He's gonna try to make you look bad, make me look bad, make everyone doubt what really happened." "I know. But I want you to know something." Tom's eyes held hers. "I ain't giving up. Not now, not ever. Your daddy trusted me to look after you, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do." Eliza nodded. Her throat was too tight for words. Tom reached over and squeezed her shoulder once. Then he turned his horse toward home, and they rode the rest of the way in silence. Behind them, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the snow blood red. And somewhere in Cheyenne, Franklin Mercer was counting his money and planning his next move. 6 days after Tom filed the custody papers, Franklin Mercer rode into Redwater with 3 lawyers and a smile that made Eliza's stomach turn to ice. She was in town with Hannah buying fabric for new dresses when she saw him through the general store window. Same thin face, same empty eyes, same way of moving like he owned everything he touched. Hannah saw him too. "Don't move," she whispered. "Don't let him see you." But Franklin was already looking, already crossing the street, already pushing through the store's front door with that smile stretching wider. "Eliza." His voice was honey and poison. "Thank God you're safe." Hannah stepped in front of her. "You're not supposed to be here. Judge Tucker's order says no contact." "I'm her uncle." Franklin spread his hands. "Her family. Surely a man can check on his own niece's welfare. You left her to die." "A misunderstanding." Franklin's smile never wavered. "The stage company made errors. I've filed a complaint. These things happen in winter, you understand." Eliza's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her mother's music box hidden in her coat pocket. "I don't want to go back with you," she said. Franklin's eyes flickered. Just for a moment. Something cold moved behind them. "You're confused, sweetheart. That man has filled your head with lies. I'm your family. Your blood. I would never hurt you." "You hit me." The words came out before she could stop them. Loud enough that Mrs. Patterson at the fabric counter turned to stare. Loud enough that the 2 ranch hands by the door stopped talking. Franklin's smile froze. "Children exaggerate," he said carefully. "I disciplined you, as any guardian would. You broke my wrist, last winter, said I fell down the stairs. You did fall. I didn't fall." Eliza's voice was steady now, stronger than she'd ever heard it. "You pushed me because I spilled your whiskey, and you told the doctor I was clumsy. You made me lie." The store had gone silent. Franklin's face changed. The smile disappeared. What replaced it was worse. "We'll discuss this at home," he said softly, "when you've had time to remember the truth. She ain't going anywhere with you." Tom's voice came from the doorway. Eliza hadn't heard him come in, but there he was, filling the frame with his shoulders and his anger and his promise. Franklin turned slowly. "Mr. Hartley, we meet again." "Get away from her." "I have every right. You have no rights." Tom stepped forward. "Judge Tucker's order is clear. No contact until the hearing. You're in violation." "I'm simply visiting my niece." "You're harassing a child under my protection." Tom's hand dropped to his belt, not to his gun, to the badge pinned there. "Marshal Briggs deputized me this morning. Special authority to enforce the custody order. You want to test it?" Franklin's eyes went to the badge, back to Tom's face. "You think a tin star changes anything?" His voice had gone cold. "You think playing lawman makes you her father? I think you need to leave, now." The two men stared at each other. Something passed between them, something old and ugly. Franklin smiled again, a different smile this time, the smile of a man who knew things. "March 15th, Mr. Hartley. I'll see you in court, and when I win, and I will win, I'm going to enjoy watching you explain to that child why you couldn't save her." He walked out without looking back. Eliza's legs gave out. She sat down hard on a barrel of flour, her whole body shaking. Tom was beside her in an instant. "You all right?" "He's gonna take me back." The words came out broken. "He's gonna win, and take me back, and he's not going to win." "You don't know that." "I know." Tom's hands found her shoulders, steadied her. "I know because I'm not going to let him. You hear me? Whatever it takes, whatever I have to do. You're staying at Rimrock." Eliza looked up at him, at this man who barely knew her, at this stranger who'd promised to fight for her. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care so much?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "Because your daddy was the best man I ever knew," he said finally. "And because he trusted me to look after you. And because—" He stopped, swallowed. "Because nobody should have to be as scared as you are right now. Nobody." He pulled her into a hug, quick and fierce, and over almost before it started. "Come on," he said. "Let's go home." The next morning brought Doc Garrett to Rimrock. He was a small man with kind eyes and steady hands, the kind of doctor who'd set bones and deliver babies and sit with the dying all in the same day. He'd known William, he'd known Tom, and now he was going to know Eliza whether she wanted him to or not. "I need to examine you," he said gently. "For the court case. We need to document everything your uncle did." Eliza sat rigid on the kitchen chair. "I don't want to." "I know, sweetheart, but this is how we prove what happened. This is how we keep you safe." Hannah stood by the stove, her face tight. Tom waited in the doorway, giving Eliza space, but not leaving. "Will it hurt?" "No. I'm just going to look. Check your hands, your feet. Any old injuries that didn't heal right." Doc Garrett opened his medical bag. "You can stop me anytime. You say the word and I stop. All right?" Eliza nodded slowly. The examination took an hour. Doc Garrett found the frostbite scars on her toes, the badly healed fracture in her left wrist, the marks on her back that she'd never let anyone see before. "Belt?" she said when he asked. "When I was bad." Doc's hands didn't shake. His voice didn't change. But Eliza saw something in his eyes, something hard and angry. "You weren't bad," he said quietly. "You were a child. Children aren't bad. Adults who hurt them are bad." He wrote everything down in his careful script. 3 pages of documentation. 3 pages of proof. When he finished, he looked at Tom. "This is neglect," he said. "Prolonged and systematic. Malnutrition, untreated injuries, physical abuse. Any reasonable judge would call this grounds for removal. Will it be enough? Against blood relation?" Doc packed his bag slowly. "I don't know. Franklin's got Cornelius Vance, and Vance doesn't lose. But this." He held up the papers. "This is a start." After he left, Eliza sat alone in the kitchen. Hannah found her there an hour later, staring at nothing. "You did good," Hannah said. "That was brave." "I don't feel brave. I feel sick." "That's what brave feels like sometimes." Hannah sat down across from her. "Can I tell you something?" Eliza nodded. "When I was young, about your age, our father used to hit Tom. Not me, just Tom. Because Tom was the oldest. Because Tom talked back. Because Tom reminded him of our mother after she died." Hannah's voice was steady, but her eyes were far away. "Tom never told anyone, never complained, just took it year after year until he was big enough to leave." "What happened?" "He left, joined the army, fought in the war, came back different." Hannah smiled sadly. "He doesn't talk about it. But I think that's why he checks the stage station in every blizzard, why he couldn't let you freeze, why he's fighting so hard for you. Because he knows what it's like. Because he knows what it's like to be a child nobody saves." Hannah reached across the table and took Eliza's hand. "He couldn't save himself back then, but he can save you now. And I think maybe that's saving him too." Eliza thought about Tom's face when he'd found her at the station, the way his eyes had gone wide, the way his voice had cracked when he said her father's name. "He's a good man," she said. "The best I know." Hannah squeezed her hand. "Now come on, we've got work to do. You've got letters to learn." The reading lessons started that afternoon. Hannah had been a schoolteacher before she married, and she hadn't forgotten how. She pulled out primers and slates and endless patience, and she started Eliza at the very beginning. "This is the letter E," she said, "like the start of your name." Eliza traced it with her finger. E. Such a simple shape, such a small thing. But it felt like a door opening. Uncle Franklin had said girls didn't need to read. Uncle Franklin had said education was a waste. Uncle Franklin had kept her ignorant on purpose, because ignorant children couldn't read bank documents or trust fund letters or their own names on legal papers. Now she was learning. "E," she said out loud. L-I-Z-A. "Perfect." Hannah smiled. "That's your name. You just read it." Eliza stared at the letters. Her name. Written down. Readable. "Can you teach me to write it too?" "I can teach you to write anything you want." They worked for 2 hours that first day, then 3 hours the next, then 4. Eliza soaked up letters like dry ground soaking up rain. By the end of the first week, she could write her name. By the end of the second, she could read simple sentences. Tom came to watch sometimes. He never said much, just stood in the doorway with his coffee, his weathered face unreadable. But Eliza caught him smiling once when she read "The cat sat on the mat," without stumbling. "Your daddy would be proud," he said. She held on to those words like treasure. 3 weeks before the hearing, Clara Whitmore came to dinner. She was the school teacher in Redwater. Tom had mentioned her once or twice, something about her wanting to help with Eliza's education, but Eliza hadn't paid much attention. Now she watched as this woman climbed down from her wagon, smoothed her simple dress, and walked toward the ranch house like she belonged there. "Mrs. Whitmore." Tom met her at the door, took her coat. "Thank you for coming." "Miss," she smiled. "I'm a widow, Mr. Hartley, but I prefer Miss Whitmore, if it's all the same." "Miss Whitmore." Tom's ears went slightly red. "This is Eliza, the one I told you about." Clara turned those warm brown eyes on Eliza, looked at her, really looked, the way Tom had that first night. "Hello, Eliza. I hear you've been learning to read." "Yes, ma'am. Miss Hannah's been teaching me." "May I see?" Eliza fetched her slate, showed Clara the letters, the words, the sentences she'd mastered. Clara examined everything with serious attention. "This is excellent work. 3 weeks." "Yes, ma'am." "Remarkable." Clara looked at Hannah. "You've done well with her." "She's done well with herself. I just showed her the tools." Dinner was roast chicken and fresh bread, and conversation that flowed easier than Eliza expected. Clara talked about her school, about her students, about the challenges of teaching children whose parents didn't see the value in education. "They think reading's a luxury," she said. "Something for rich folks with time to waste. They don't understand that it's power, that a person who can read can't be cheated or lied to or kept ignorant." "My uncle didn't want me to read," Eliza said quietly. "I know." Clara's voice was gentle. "That's why it matters so much that you're learning now." After dinner, Clara and Tom walked on the porch while Hannah cleaned up. Eliza watched through the window, curious. "They like each other," Miguel said from behind her. Eliza jumped. She hadn't heard him come in. "Who? El patron and la maestra." Miguel smiled. "Watch how he stands, how he listens when she talks. A man doesn't look at a woman that way unless he's interested." Mr. Tom's never been married. Never. Too busy with the ranch. Too loyal to his work. Miguel's smile softened. But people change. Sometimes it takes the right person to show them what they're missing. Eliza watched Tom lean against the porch railing, his full attention on Clara's face. She saw the teacher laugh at something he said. Saw Tom's rare smile in response. "Do you think she'll help us?" Eliza asked. At the hearing, "I think Miss Clara would walk through fire to do what's right." Miguel's voice was serious now. "She's that kind of woman, the kind who doesn't back down." On the porch, Clara touched Tom's arm briefly. A small gesture, almost nothing. But Tom's whole body seemed to lean toward her like a plant leaning toward sun. Eliza smiled despite herself. The first warning came at church on Sunday. Redwater's congregation filled the white-painted building same as every week. But this time, something was different. People who'd always nodded to Tom now looked away. Women who'd smiled at Hannah now whispered behind their hands. Eliza felt the change like cold water down her back. "Ignore them," Hannah murmured. "They don't matter." But they did matter. Eliza could see it in the way the preacher kept glancing at their pew, in the way his sermon seemed aimed at them like arrows. "The family is God's sacred institution," Reverend Mills intoned. "Blood ties are holy ties. To tear a child from her rightful family is to tear at the very fabric of God's plan." Tom's jaw tightened. Hannah's hand found Eliza's knee under the hymnal. After the service, they couldn't escape fast enough. But Margaret Henderson caught them at the door. "Mr. Hartley?" Her smile was sugar over steel. "We've been discussing the situation. Several families have concerns." "What kind of concerns?" "A bachelor raising a young girl. It's not proper. Tongues are wagging." "Let them wag." "I'm simply saying." Margaret stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It might be best for everyone if the child went back to her uncle. Quieter that way. Less scandal." That child's uncle left her to freeze. Tom's voice was quiet. "There's your scandal. Allegations. Unproven allegations." Margaret shook her head. "Vernon. I mean, Franklin is a respectable man. He made a mistake perhaps, but family is family. Blood is blood. Surely you understand." "I understand that you've been talking to Cornelius Vance." Margaret's smile flickered. "I don't know what you mean." "Tell Vance this." Tom stepped forward, and Margaret backed up involuntarily. "Tell him that girl is staying with me. Tell him that no amount of gossip or pressure or legal maneuvering is going to change that. And tell him that if Franklin Mercer shows his face at Rimrock again, I'll give him a lesson in what happens to men who hurt children." He walked past her without another word. Eliza hurried after him, her heart pounding. Behind them, Margaret Henderson's face was white with fury. The second warning came at midnight. Eliza woke to shouting. She scrambled out of bed, ran to the window, saw torches moving in the darkness, men on horses, Miguel running from the bunkhouse with a rifle. "Stay inside." Hannah's voice came from the hallway. "Eliza, stay in your room." But Eliza was already at the top of the stairs watching Tom throw open the front door. "What do you want?" 3 men sat on horses in the yard. Their faces were covered with bandanas. Their torches cast dancing shadows. "Just delivering a message." The lead rider's voice was muffled. "Franklin Mercer wants his niece back. He's willing to make it worth your while." "I don't take bribes." "Then maybe you'll take a warning." The rider gestured, and one of his companions threw something at Tom's feet. A dead chicken, its neck wrung. "Next time it won't be poultry. Think about it." They wheeled their horses and disappeared into the darkness. Tom stood in the doorway, breathing hard. "Miguel, double the night watch. Nobody sleeps alone until the hearing." "Sí, patron." Hannah came down the stairs, her face pale. "They're trying to scare us." "They're succeeding." Tom turned, saw Eliza on the landing. His face softened. "It's all right. They're gone. They're going to keep coming, aren't they?" Tom didn't answer. He didn't need to. The third warning came from Clara. She arrived at Rimrock 3 days later, her face drawn with worry. "They're going to fire me," she said without preamble. "The school board. They say I'm associating with unsuitable elements. They say my support of your custody case is improper." Tom's face went hard. "Who's on the board?" "You know who. Margaret Henderson's husband. Franklin's lawyer has been talking to them, spreading stories." Clara's voice cracked slightly. "They say if I testify for you at the hearing, I'll lose my position." "Then don't testify." "I'm going to testify." Her chin came up. "I'm going to tell the truth. That girl has made more progress in a month than most children make in a year. That's proof of good guardianship. That's evidence. At the cost of your livelihood. Some things are more important than a job." Clara's eyes found Eliza, who'd been listening from the kitchen doorway. "Some things are worth fighting for." Tom was quiet for a long moment. "You shouldn't have to sacrifice your future for us." "No, I shouldn't." Clara smiled slightly. "But I'm going to anyway. Because it's right. And because—" She stopped. Started again. "Because I've spent 5 years in this town being safe and careful and proper. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of watching good people get hurt while bad people win." "Clara." "I've made up my mind, Tom." She said his name naturally, easily, like she'd been saying it for years. "Don't try to change it." Something passed between them. Something Eliza couldn't quite name. "All right," Tom said finally. "Then we fight together." Clara reached out and touched his hand. Together. That night, Eliza found Tom alone in the barn. He was brushing his gray stallion, the repetitive motion steady and calming. He didn't look up when she came in. "Can't sleep?" "No, sir." "Me neither." He kept brushing. "Something on your mind?" Eliza leaned against the stall door. "Miss Clara, you like her?" Tom's hand paused. Just for a moment. "She's a good woman." "That's not what I asked." Tom set down the brush, turned to look at her fully. "You're too smart for 10 years old. You know that Uncle Franklin said I was stupid." "Uncle Franklin was wrong about a lot of things." Tom leaned against the stall beside her. "Yeah, I like her. That obvious—" "Miguel says you look at her like a plant looks at the sun." Tom made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Miguel needs to mind his own business." "Are you going to marry her?" Tom stopped, shook his head. "I don't know. I've been alone a long time. Got used to it. She's risking everything for us. For me." "I know. That means something." Tom was quiet for a while. "Your daddy asked me once why I never got married," he said finally. "I told him I was too busy with the ranch, too focused on building something. He said I was scared." "Were you?" "Maybe." Tom's voice was soft. "Maybe I was scared of having something to lose. Someone who could leave. Someone who could hurt me." He looked at Eliza. "But then I found you at that station. And I realized I already had something to lose. I just didn't know it yet." Eliza's throat tightened. "I don't want you to be alone," she said. "You shouldn't be alone." Tom reached out and ruffled her hair, an awkward gesture, a father's gesture. Neither should you, little one, neither should you. 2 weeks before the hearing, Franklin made his move. He filed an emergency petition with the territorial court, claimed Eliza was being held against her will, demanded immediate return of his ward pending the guardianship hearing. Judge Tucker denied it. Franklin appealed. A judge in Helena granted a temporary review. Tom got the news from Marshal Briggs, who rode out to Rimrock looking like a man heading to a funeral. "They're saying Tucker was biased," Briggs said, "because of his history with you. Helena's sending an independent examiner to interview Eliza. Make sure she's here voluntarily. She's 10 years old. Where else would she go? I'm just telling you what they're saying." Briggs shifted uncomfortably. "The examiner arrives tomorrow. Name's Patterson. He's supposed to be fair." "Supposed to be? I know it's not much comfort." Briggs turned his hat in his hands. "But Tom, whatever happens tomorrow, make sure that girl tells the truth. The whole truth. Don't coach her, don't script her. Just let her tell her story." "I wasn't planning on doing anything else." "I know. But Vance is going to claim you've manipulated her, turned her against her uncle. The more natural she sounds, the better your chances." After Briggs left, Tom found Eliza in the kitchen. "You heard?" She nodded. "Man's coming tomorrow to talk to you. Ask you questions about your uncle, about being here, about what you want." Tom sat down across from her. "I need you to tell him the truth. Whatever he asks. Just the truth." "What if the truth isn't enough? It's going to have to be." Tom's eyes held hers. "I can't tell you what to say. I won't. But I can tell you this, whatever happens, whatever they decide, I'm going to keep fighting. Until I can't fight anymore. What if they take me away? Then I'll come for you." Tom's voice was fierce. "I don't care where they send you. I don't care how long it takes. I'll find you and I'll bring you home." Eliza believed him. She believed him with everything she had. Patterson arrived the next morning. He was a small man with spectacles and a notebook, and he asked questions for 3 hours. About Uncle Franklin, about Tom, about the night at the station, the blizzard, the 43 cents. Eliza told the truth. She told him about the hitting, the starving, the broken wrist. She told him about Franklin's drinking, his gambling, his rage when she accidentally interrupted his card games. She told him about Tom carrying her through the snow, about Hannah's lessons, about learning to read her own name for the first time. She told him she wanted to stay. When Patterson left, his face gave nothing away. "I'll submit my report to the Helena court," he said. "The hearing will proceed as scheduled." And that was all. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She crept downstairs, found Tom in the parlor with a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking. "Mr. Tom?" "Yeah." She sat down beside him. "I'm scared." "I know." "What if I said something wrong? What if he didn't believe me?" "You told the truth. That's all you can do." "It doesn't feel like enough." Tom set down his untouched whiskey. "Let me tell you something about your daddy," he said. "When we started this ranch, we had nothing. 300 head of half-wild cattle in a dream. Everyone said we'd fail. Said 2 men couldn't build an empire in this territory. But you did. We did. Because we didn't quit. Because every time someone told us no, we found another way." Tom's voice was steady. "That's what we're going to do now. Whatever happens at this hearing, whatever the judge decides, we're going to find another way. Because that's what your daddy would have done. And that's what I'm going to do." Eliza leaned against his shoulder. "I wish he was here." "Me too, little one." Tom's arm came around her. "Me too." They sat together in the darkness until dawn started to lighten the windows. And somewhere in Cheyenne, Franklin Mercer was polishing his lies for the courtroom. Patterson's report came back 3 days later. Tom was in the barn when Marshal Briggs rode up, his face unreadable. Eliza watched from the kitchen window, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Well?" Tom's voice carried across the yard. Briggs dismounted slowly. Too slowly. Helena's letting the hearing proceed. Patterson found no evidence of coercion or manipulation. That's good news. There's more. Briggs pulled a folded paper from his coat. Franklin filed a counter-petition this morning. He's claiming you've been poisoning Eliza against him. Says she's been coached to lie about abuse that never happened. Tom took the paper, read it. His face went hard as granite. He's calling her a liar. He's calling you a kidnapper. Briggs shifted his weight. Vance is good, Tom. He's spinning this whole thing, making you look like a wealthy rancher who stole a poor man's niece for reasons he's leaving to people's imagination. What kind of reasons? The kind that get whispered about in church. Briggs met his eyes. You know what I mean. Tom's hands clenched around the paper. That's a damned lie. I know, but lies don't need to be true to do damage. Briggs mounted his horse. Watch your back. Vance isn't just fighting for custody anymore. He's fighting to destroy you. After the marshal left, Tom stood alone in the yard for a long time. Eliza found him there when she finally worked up the courage to come outside. What did the paper say? Tom looked at her. For a moment she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. Nothing you need to worry about. I'm not a baby. I can handle the truth. Tom was quiet. Then he handed her the paper. Eliza read it slowly, sounding out the harder words the way Hannah had taught her. By the time she finished, her hands were shaking. He's saying I lied. About everything. He's desperate. Desperate men say desperate things. But what if people believe him? What if the judge believes him? Then we prove them wrong. Tom took the paper back, folded it carefully. We've got Doc Garrett's medical reports. We've got Clara's testimony. We've got 6 weeks of proof that you're thriving here. What if it's not enough? Tom knelt down to her level. Then we find more. His voice was fierce. I didn't pull you out of that blizzard to lose you in a courtroom. Whatever Franklin throws at us, we throw back harder. Understand? Eliza nodded. She understood. She just wasn't sure understanding was going to be enough. The evidence gathering started that afternoon. Tom sent Miguel to Cheyenne with a list of names. People who knew Franklin. People who'd seen him drunk, gambling, violent. People who might be willing to testify. Miguel came back 4 days later with bad news. Everyone's scared, he said. Franklin's got connections. Silas Drummond's got more. People don't want to get involved. Nobody. One man, bartender at the Silver Dollar. He'll talk, but only if we can guarantee protection. What's he got? Miguel pulled a crumpled paper from his pocket. A gambling marker. $800 owed to Silas Drummond, signed by Franklin Mercer, dated 2 weeks before he'd left Eliza at the station. This proves motive, Tom said slowly. He owed money he couldn't pay. Eliza's trust fund was his only way out. There's more. Miguel's face was grim. Bartender says Franklin tried to borrow against the trust fund months ago. Drummond was going to give him a loan using Eliza as collateral. The bank refused. Said they needed proof Franklin was actually using the money for her care. So he couldn't touch the principal. Not unless he proved hardship, or unless she died. Tom's voice was flat. Then he'd inherit as her next of kin. The kitchen went silent. Hannah set down the dish she'd been drying. He wasn't just abandoning her, he was murdering her. Can't prove murder if no one dies. Tom stared at the gambling marker. But we can prove he had reason to want her gone. That's something. It's not enough. Hannah's voice was tight. Vance will argue the loan was for her benefit. We'll claim Franklin was trying to provide for her. A good lawyer can twist anything. Then we get more. How? Tom looked at the marker again. At Silas Drummond's name scrawled at the bottom. Drummond's the key. Franklin owes him money. Drummond's the one applying pressure. He stood up. I need to talk to him. Are you crazy? Hannah grabbed his arm. Silas Drummond is a loan shark. He's got men who've killed people for less than $800. I'm not going to threaten him. I'm going to buy him. Buy him. Franklin's debt. If I pay it off, Drummond's got no reason to care who wins custody." Tom's jaw was set. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be willing to testify about why Franklin needed that money so badly. "You're going to pay Franklin's debt to save his niece from him." Hannah shook her head. "That's insane." "You got a better idea." She didn't. Tom rode out the next morning. Eliza watched him go, her stomach twisted into knots. "He'll be all right," Clara said. She'd come to help with lessons while Tom was gone. Tom knows how to handle himself. Drummond's dangerous. So is Tom when he needs to be. Clara's hand found Eliza's shoulder. "Come on, let's work on your reading. It'll help pass the time." They worked for hours. Eliza read through an entire primer, stumbling less and less with each page. Clara praised her progress, but Eliza could see the worry behind her smile. Night fell. Tom didn't come back. "Something's wrong," Hannah said at dinner. "He should have been here hours ago." "Maybe the roads are bad," Clara offered. "The roads are fine. I checked this morning." They waited. The clock ticked. The fire crackled. At 10 o'clock, hoofbeats sounded in the yard. Eliza ran to the window. Tom's gray stallion stood at the hitching post riderless. The saddle was stained dark. "Blood." Hannah's voice was barely a whisper. "That's blood." Miguel burst through the door, his face wild. "Found him on the North Road. He's hurt bad." They brought Tom inside on a makeshift stretcher. His face was pale, his shirt soaked red. A gash ran across his ribs, deep and ugly. "Drummond's men," Tom managed, "ambushed me on the way back." "Did you get what you needed?" Hannah was already cutting away his shirt, her hands steady despite her fear. "Yeah." Tom's voice was fading. "Paid the debt. Got Drummond to talk." He reached into his coat, pulled out a blood-stained paper. "Affidavit. Signed and witnessed. Says Franklin came to him 6 months ago. Wanted a loan against Eliza's trust fund. Said he'd pay it back when she—" He stopped, coughed. "When she— what?" Eliza's voice was small. "When she died." Tom's eyes found hers. "He told Drummond he was going to stage an accident. Make it look natural. Collect the insurance and the trust fund." The room went absolutely still. "That's murder," Clara whispered. "Premeditated murder." "Drummond didn't care. Business is business." Tom's eyes were closing. "But he cares now. I paid him double what Franklin owed. Made it worth his while to tell the truth." Hannah pressed a cloth against the wound. "Stop talking. You're losing too much blood." "Had to tell you." Tom's hand found Eliza's, squeezed weakly. "Had to make sure you knew. In case I—" "You're not dying." Eliza's voice cracked. "You promised you'd fight. You promised you wouldn't give up." "Not giving up." Tom's lips twitched toward a smile. "Just resting. Long day." His eyes closed. Doc Garrett arrived an hour later. He worked through the night, stitching and bandaging and muttering prayers under his breath. At dawn, he finally stepped back. "He'll live." Blade missed the vital organs. "He'll be weak for a while, but he'll live." Eliza burst into tears. Clara held her while she sobbed, stroking her hair, murmuring words that didn't mean anything except that she was there, she was present, she wasn't leaving. "That girl needs to sleep," Doc said quietly to Hannah. "She's been through too much." "We all have." Hannah looked at her brother's pale face. "But we're not done yet." The attack changed everything. News spread through Redwater like wildfire. Tom Hartley ambushed on the road. Silas Drummond's men suspected. Franklin Mercer's name whispered in connection with it all. Marshal Briggs arrested 2 of Drummond's thugs 3 days later. They confessed to the assault, but claimed they'd acted alone. No one believed them. Can't prove Franklin ordered it, Briggs told Hannah. Not without Drummond testifying, and Drummond's not talking anymore. But he signed an affidavit. An affidavit that says Franklin talked about wanting Eliza dead 6 months ago. It doesn't prove he ordered this attack. Briggs shook his head. Vance is already spinning it. Says Tom provoked the assault. Says he went to threaten Drummond and got what was coming to him. That's absurd. That's the law. Without proof, it's Tom's word against theirs. But something else had changed too. The people who'd been whispering against Tom went quiet. The church ladies who'd sided with Franklin suddenly found reasons to look away. Margaret Henderson stopped attending services altogether. They know, Clara said. Everyone knows Franklin's guilty. They just can't prove it. Knowing isn't enough, Hannah replied. We need the judge to know. Tom was back on his feet a week later, moving slow but moving. The wound had closed clean, but he'd lost weight and his face had a grayness that worried everyone. You should be in bed, Doc Garrett told him. Can't, hearing's in 3 days. You can barely stand. I'll stand long enough. Tom's jaw was set. I didn't get stabbed for nothing. I'm going to be in that courtroom. Eliza found him that night in the barn trying to saddle his horse with one arm. Let me help. I can do it. You can barely lift the saddle. She took it from him, settled it on the horse's back with the ease of weeks of practice. You're being stubborn. Hartley family trait. Eliza tightened the cinch the way Miguel had taught her. Are we going to win? Tom was quiet for a moment. I don't know, he said finally. I've done everything I can. Got evidence, got witnesses, got proof of what Franklin did. But at the end of the day, a judge has to decide. And judges are human. They make mistakes. What happens if we lose? We appeal. And if the appeal fails? Tom turned to face her fully. Then I come for you. No matter where they send you, no matter what they do, I find you and I bring you home. His voice was fierce. I told you that the first night and I meant it. You're my family now, Eliza. Maybe not by blood, but by everything else. And I don't abandon family. Eliza's eyes burned. I don't want to go back to him. You won't. You can't promise that. Watch me. Tom's hand found her shoulder. I've been making promises all my life, and I've kept every single one. This isn't going to be the first I break. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered that wanting and needing weren't the same as having. The night before the hearing, Franklin came to Rimrock. He came alone. No lawyers, no hired men, just him and his horse, and a bottle of whiskey that was already half empty. Eliza heard the shouting from her bedroom window. I want to talk to her. Franklin's voice was slurred, desperate. Just let me talk to her. Get off my land. Tom stood on the porch, a rifle in his hands. Miguel flanked him on one side, 2 ranch hands on the other. You're in violation of the judge's order. Damn the order. That's my niece. Franklin stumbled forward. She's blood. My blood. You can't take her from me. I didn't take her. You threw her away. I made a mistake. Tears were streaming down Franklin's face now. I was drunk. I was scared I owed money to men who would have killed me. I didn't know what else to do, so you left a child to freeze. I thought someone would find her. I thought... Franklin fell to his knees. Please, just let me talk to her. Let me explain. Eliza's hand was on the window latch before she knew what she was doing. She opened it, leaned out. I don't want to talk to you. Franklin looked up. His face was a ruin. Red eyes, wet cheeks, the hollow look of a man who'd lost everything and knew it. Eliza, baby girl, please. You hit me. Her voice was steady, cold. You starved me. You broke my wrist and told the doctor I was clumsy. You sold Mama's jewelry and spent it on cards. You left me to die in a blizzard for money. I was sick. I had a disease. The gambling, you told me I was stupid. You told me I was worthless. You told me girls didn't need to read because they'd never amount to anything anyway. Eliza's hands gripped the windowsill. But I can read now. I can write my own name. I can add numbers and understand documents and see through your lies. I never meant... You meant every word. She leaned further out. And I want you to know something, Uncle Franklin. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm never going back to you. If the judge says I have to, I'll run. If you drag me back to Cheyenne, I'll escape. I'll keep running and keep fighting until I find my way back here. Because this is my home now. These are my people. And you... Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. You were never my family. Not really. You were just the man who shared my father's blood and threw it all away. Franklin stared up at her. For one long moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been shame or grief, or the ghost of the man he could have been. Then it was gone. You'll regret this. His voice had changed, gone hard. When I win tomorrow, and I will win, I'm going to make sure you remember this night. Every time you open your mouth, I'll remind you what happens to ungrateful children who don't know their place. Get him out of here. Tom's voice was ice. Miguel and the ranch hands moved forward. Franklin scrambled to his feet, backing toward his horse. This isn't over, Hartley. The law is on my side. Blood is on my side. Blood doesn't mean a damn thing when it's been poisoned. Tom raised his rifle. You've got 30 seconds to clear my property. After that, I start shooting. Franklin mounted his horse. His eyes found Eliza's window one last time. See you in court, niece. Then he was gone. Eliza closed the window with shaking hands. She didn't sleep that night. None of them did. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of March day that couldn't decide between winter and spring. Tom dressed in his best suit, moving carefully around his healing wound. Hannah helped Eliza into a clean dress, braided her hair, tried to smile. Whatever happens today, Hannah said, I want you to know something. These past weeks having you here, it's been the best thing that's happened to this family in years. Even with all the trouble, because of the trouble. Hannah's eyes were bright. Tom was drowning Eliza. After your father died, after the ranch nearly failed, he was just going through the motions, waiting to die himself. She touched Eliza's cheek. You woke him up, gave him something to fight for, gave us all something to fight for. Eliza threw her arms around Hannah's neck. I don't want to leave. I know, sweetheart. I know. They rode into Redwater in a wagon, all of them together. Tom and Hannah in front, Eliza between them, Clara behind her, hand resting on Eliza's shoulder like an anchor. The courthouse was already surrounded when they arrived. People everywhere. Farmers, merchants, ranch hands, housewives. The whole town had turned out to watch. They came to see a show, Miguel muttered. Then let's give them one. Tom climbed down, held out his hand for Eliza. Ready. She took his hand. Ready. They walked into the courthouse together, heads high, shoulders straight. Whatever was waiting inside, they would face it as a family. The family they'd chosen. The family they'd built. The family that blood had nothing to do with. The courtroom was packed to the walls. Eliza had never seen so many people in one place. They lined the benches, stood against the walls, crowded the doorways. The air was thick with whispers and the smell of wool and tobacco. Judge Elijah Tucker sat behind his bench, his face carved from stone. His eyes swept the room once, twice, and silence fell like a hammer. This court is now in session. Case of Mercer versus Hartley, petition for guardianship of the minor child, Eliza May Mercer. He looked at Franklin's table, then at Tom's. Both parties are present. Mr. Vance, you filed this petition. Present your case. Cornelius Vance rose like oil spreading on water. Your Honor, this is a simple matter of family and blood. His voice was smooth, practiced. Franklin Mercer is the blood uncle of Eliza May Mercer. Under territorial law, blood relations take precedence in matters of guardianship. Mr. Hartley, while perhaps well-intentioned, has no legal standing to keep this child from her rightful family. The child was abandoned, Tom said flatly. You'll have your turn, Mr. Hartley. Tucker's voice was sharp. Continue, Mr. Vance. Vance smiled. My client admits to making a mistake. A regrettable error in judgment during a difficult time. He arranged transportation for his niece to a reputable orphanage, believing it was in her best interests. Circumstances beyond his control led to a breakdown in those arrangements. Circumstances. Tom's voice was ice. Mr. Hartley, Tucker's gavel cracked. You will remain silent until called upon. Vance continued, as if nothing had happened. Since that unfortunate night, my client has been prevented from seeing his niece. He's been accused of crimes without evidence, slandered in the community, and denied his basic rights as a family member. He turned to face the gallery. I ask you, is this justice? Is this how we treat grieving relatives who've made a single mistake? The whispers started again. Eliza felt them like needles in her skin. I call Franklin Mercer to the stand. Franklin walked forward with his head down, his shoulders slumped. The picture of a broken man. He took the oath, sat in the witness chair, and folded his hands like he was praying. Mr. Mercer. Vance's voice was gentle. Tell the court about your relationship with your niece. I took her in when William died. Franklin's voice trembled. She had no one else. I was barely making ends meet, but I couldn't let my brother's child go to an orphanage. Not then. Not while I had breath in my body. And how did you provide for her? Best I could. I worked 2 jobs, went without meals so she could eat, sold everything I owned that wasn't nailed down. Franklin wiped his eyes. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. But I tried. Eliza's stomach churned. The lies came out of him so smooth, so practiced, like he'd spent his whole life learning to be someone he wasn't. Tell us about the night in question. Franklin's head dropped. I was desperate. I owed money to some bad people. They were threatening to hurt us, both of us. I thought if I could get Eliza somewhere safe, somewhere they couldn't find her, I could deal with my problems and then come get her. His voice broke. I made arrangements with the stage company, paid for her ticket, paid for someone to meet her in Helena. What happened? The arrangements fell through. Someone stole the money, canceled the escort. Franklin looked up, and there were tears on his cheeks. I didn't know until it was too late. By the time I found out, Mr. Hartley had already taken her. Taken her? Taken her. Franklin's voice hardened slightly. Without my permission, without consulting me, without any legal authority. He just took her, and he's been keeping her from me ever since. Vance nodded sympathetically. No further questions. Tucker looked at Tom. Cross-examination, Mr. Hartley. Tom stood slowly. His healing wound made him careful, but his eyes were steady. Mr. Mercer, you say you paid for your niece's ticket. How much was that fare? $3.50. The station master's records show no payment received. We have his sworn affidavit. He stole it. Franklin's voice rose. I gave him the money, and he pocketed it. You have a receipt. No. I trusted him. You trusted a stranger with your niece's life, but you didn't ask for a receipt. Franklin's jaw tightened. I was in a hurry. I see. Tom picked up a paper from his table. You mentioned owing money to bad people. Would that be Silas Drummond? Vance shot to his feet. Objection. Relevance. Goes to motive, Your Honor. Tom's voice was calm. The petitioner's financial situation is directly relevant to why he abandoned the child. I'll allow it. Tucker's eyes were sharp. Answer the question, Mr. Mercer. Franklin shifted in his chair. Yes, I owed Mr. Drummond some money. How much? I don't recall exactly. Tom held up another paper. This is a gambling marker signed by you dated 2 weeks before you abandoned your niece. It shows a debt of $800 to Silas Drummond. Does that refresh your memory? Franklin's face had gone pale. That's a private matter. It became a public matter when you left a child to freeze because you couldn't pay it. Tom's voice hardened. I have an affidavit from Mr. Drummond himself. He states that you approached him 6 months ago, wanting to borrow against your niece's trust fund. He states that you told him, and I quote, "She won't need the money anyway, not where she's going." The courtroom erupted. Tucker's gavel came down hard. Order, I will have order. Franklin was shaking his head. That's a lie. Drummond's a criminal. You can't trust. He's a criminal you owed $800 to. Tom stepped closer to the witness stand. A criminal who sent men to attack me when I tried to expose the truth. A criminal who only agreed to testify because I paid off your debt. Objection. Vance was on his feet. This is inflammatory and... Sit down, Mr. Vance. Tucker's voice cut like a blade. I want to hear this. Tom turned to face the judge directly. Your Honor, I have medical evidence showing prolonged neglect and abuse. I have financial records showing the petitioner's gambling addiction. I have testimony from multiple witnesses about his character. And I have a signed affidavit from Silas Drummond stating that Franklin Mercer talked openly about wanting his niece dead so he could collect her trust fund. The silence was absolute. This wasn't an accident, Tom continued. This wasn't a mistake. This was attempted murder. Franklin Mercer left that child to freeze because she was worth $15,000 dead and nothing alive. Franklin jumped from the witness chair. You lying son of a... Sit down. Tucker's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Sit down, or I'll have you removed. 2 bailiffs stepped forward. Franklin dropped back into his seat, his face twisted with rage. Tucker took a long breath. Do you have anything else, Mr. Hartley? I have witnesses, Your Honor. Dr. Garrett, who can testify to the medical evidence of abuse. Miss Clara Whitmore, who can speak to the child's educational progress under my care, and the child herself, if you'll permit her to speak. Tucker looked at Eliza. I'd like to hear from Miss Mercer. Vance stood quickly. Your Honor, the child has clearly been coached. She's been living with Mr. Hartley for weeks. Anything she says will be, I'll determine what's reliable. Tucker's eyes hadn't left Eliza. Miss Mercer, approach the bench. Eliza's legs felt like water. She stood anyway, walked forward on feet that didn't seem to belong to her. Tom's hand brushed her shoulder as she passed a brief touch, a reminder that she wasn't alone. She climbed into the witness chair. It felt huge. She felt small. Miss Mercer. Tucker's voice was gentler now. Do you understand what it means to tell the truth? Yes, sir. And you understand that lying to this court is a serious offense? Yes, sir. Very well. Tucker sat back. In your own words, tell me what happened the night you were left at the station. Eliza took a breath. Uncle Franklin woke me up early, before dawn. He said we were going on a trip. He put me in the stagecoach and gave me 43 cents. He said the fare was paid and someone would meet me in Helena. Did he say where you were going? St. Catherine's, an orphanage. Eliza's hands twisted in her lap. He said he couldn't afford to keep me anymore. Said I ate too much. Cost too much. What happened when you arrived at the station? The stage master said there was no prepaid fare. No one was coming to meet me. The storm was too bad for the stage to run. Her voice dropped. He left me there. Alone. In the dark. How long were you alone? I don't know. Hours. The lamp went out. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. I thought... She stopped, swallowed. I thought I was going to die. The courtroom was completely silent. And then, Mr. Tom came. He was checking the station because of the storm. He does that checks to make sure no one's caught out in the cold. Eliza's eyes found Tom's face. He found me, wrapped me in his coat, carried me to his horse, brought me home. To Rimrock Ranch. Yes, sir. Tucker was quiet for a moment. Miss Mercer, I need to ask you something important. Has anyone told you what to say today? Has anyone coached you or instructed you? No, sir. You're speaking your own words. Yes, sir. Eliza sat up straighter. Mr. Tom told me to tell the truth. That's all. Just the truth. And the truth is... Eliza looked at Franklin. At this man who shared her father's blood. At this stranger who had tried to kill her. The truth is that my uncle never wanted me. He only kept me because of the trust fund. He couldn't touch the money, so he decided to get rid of me instead. Her voice was steady now, clear. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't have arrangements fall through. He left me to die because I was worth more dead than alive. Franklin surged forward. You little liar! I raised you! I fed you! You broke my wrist. Eliza's voice cracked, but she didn't stop. You hit me when you were drunk. You told me I was stupid, worthless, good for nothing. You sold Mama's jewelry to pay gambling debts. You never gave me a single day when I wasn't afraid. The bailiffs had Franklin by the arms, now holding him back. His face was purple with rage. She's lying. She's been brainwashed. That man poisoned her against me. Remove him. Tucker's voice was ice. Remove him now. The bailiffs dragged Franklin toward the door. He fought them every step, screaming accusations, threats, promises of vengeance. The door slammed shut behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Tucker turned back to Eliza. Is there anything else you want to tell this court? Eliza thought about everything. The blizzard, the cold, Tom's arms carrying her through the snow, Hannah teaching her to read, Clara risking her job, Miguel teaching her to ride. I want to stay at Rimrock, she said. I want to stay with Mr. Tom. He's not my blood. I know that. But he's my family. The only real family I've ever had. Tucker nodded slowly. You may step down. Eliza walked back to her seat on legs that trembled. Tom's hand found hers, squeezed hard. You did good, he whispered. You did so good. The rest of the witnesses came after. Doc Garrett with his medical evidence. 3 pages of documented abuse. Frostbite scars, a badly healed wrist, old bruises that had never been explained. Clara Whitmore with her educational records. 6 weeks of progress. A child who couldn't write her name now reading at a 3rd grade level. Miguel Santos with the gambling markers. The bartender's testimony about Franklin's debts. His desperation, his talk of getting rid of the problem. Vance tried to object, tried to spin, tried to twist the evidence into something less damning. It didn't work. By the time the last witness stepped down, the courtroom knew. Everyone knew. Tucker called for a recess. I'll deliver my ruling in 1 hour. The waiting was the worst part. Eliza sat between Tom and Hannah on a bench outside the courtroom, her mother's music box clutched in her hands. Clara paced back and forth. Miguel leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. No one spoke. What was there to say? Tom's hand found Eliza's shoulder. Whatever happens. I know. She cut him off. You'll come for me. You promised. That's right. She leaned against his side. Mr. Tom. Yeah. Thank you for everything. Even if... She stopped. Even if it doesn't work out, thank you for trying. Tom's arm came around her. It's going to work out. You don't know that. I know that I'm not going to stop fighting. Not now, not ever. His voice was fierce. And I know that no matter what that judge says, you're my family. Blood's got nothing to do with it. The courthouse doors opened. Judge is ready. They filed back in. The courtroom was still packed. The whispers had stopped. Everyone was holding their breath. Tucker sat behind his bench, his face unreadable. I've reviewed the evidence, he said. I've heard the testimony. I've considered the law." He paused. "The territorial statute is clear. Blood relations take precedence in matters of guardianship, unless said relations are proven morally unfit by preponderance of evidence." Eliza's heart stopped. In this case, Tucker took a breath. In this case, the evidence is overwhelming. Franklin Mercer did not merely make a mistake. He did not simply have arrangements fall through. He deliberately and knowingly abandoned a child in conditions designed to ensure her death for the sole purpose of collecting her inheritance. His eyes found Franklin standing between the bailiffs at the back of the room. "That is not a mistake. That is attempted murder, and no amount of legal maneuvering can make it anything else." Tucker picked up his gavel. "Guardianship of Eliza May Mercer is hereby awarded to Thomas Hartley. All legal rights and responsibilities pertaining thereto are transferred immediately. The trust fund established by William Mercer shall remain in bank custody under Mr. Hartley's stewardship until Miss Mercer reaches her 18th birthday." The gavel came down. "Furthermore, Franklin Mercer is ordered to have no contact with the minor child. Any violation of this order will result in immediate arrest and prosecution." The courtroom exploded. Eliza couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except sit there while the world spun around her. Then Tom's arms were around her, lifting her, holding her tight. "It's over," he said. "It's over. You're staying." Eliza buried her face in his shoulder and sobbed. She was staying. She was home. Behind them, the bailiffs were leading Franklin away. He was screaming something, but Eliza couldn't hear the words. Didn't want to hear them. All she could hear was Tom's heartbeat against her ear. All she could feel was safety. All she could think was, "This is real. This is happening. I'm home." Clara was crying. Hannah was crying. Even Miguel's eyes were suspiciously bright. Judge Tucker watched them from his bench. For just a moment, his stone face cracked into something that might have been a smile. Then he stood, gathered his robes, and walked toward his chambers, but not before looking at Tom one last time. "Your partner would be proud," he said quietly. "You kept your promise." Tom's arms tightened around Eliza. "I always do." The ride back to Rimrock felt different. The same road, the same horses, the same frozen landscape stretching toward the mountains. But everything had changed. Eliza sat in the wagon between Tom and Hannah, her mother's music box warm in her pocket, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what came next. "We should celebrate," Hannah said. "A proper celebration. Roast chicken, fresh bread, that apple pie I've been saving." "Sounds good." Tom's voice was rough, tired. But underneath the exhaustion, Eliza heard something else. Relief. Joy. Peace. "Can Miss Clara come?" Eliza asked. Tom's ears went red. "If she wants to." "She wants to." Hannah smiled. "Trust me on that." They pulled into the ranch yard just as the sun was setting. Miguel was waiting on the porch, and when he saw their faces, his whole body relaxed. "We won. We won." Tom climbed down, held out his hand for Eliza. "It's over." Miguel let out a whoop that echoed off the barn walls. He grabbed Eliza, swung her around, set her down, laughing. "I knew it. I knew that judge would see the truth." He saw everything. Eliza was breathless. He gave Uncle Franklin no contact. Forever. Good. Miguel's face went serious. "That man deserves worse, but I'll take forever." The celebration that night was everything Hannah had promised and more. Roast chicken with herbs, fresh bread still warm from the oven, apple pie with cream so thick you could stand a spoon in it. Clara arrived just after dark, her cheeks pink from the cold ride. Tom met her at the door, took her coat, and for a moment they just looked at each other. "You did it," Clara said softly. "We did it." Tom's hand found hers. "Couldn't have done it without you." Eliza watched them from the kitchen doorway. Watched the way they leaned toward each other. Watched the way Tom's thumb traced circles on Clara's palm. Hannah appeared beside her. "Give them a minute," she whispered. They've earned it. Dinner was loud and warm and full of laughter. Stories got told and retold. The moment Franklin had been dragged from the courtroom. The look on Vance's face when the verdict came down. Judge Tucker's rare almost smile. To Eliza. Tom raised his glass. The bravest person I know. To Eliza. Everyone echoed. She ducked her head, embarrassed and pleased all at once. I wasn't brave. I was scared the whole time. That's what brave means. Clara's voice was gentle. Being scared and doing it anyway. After dinner, Tom walked Clara to her wagon. They stood together in the moonlight for a long time, talking low, their breath making clouds in the cold air. Eliza watched from her bedroom window. She saw Tom take Clara's hand, saw him lean closer, saw Clara reach up and touch his face. Then they kissed. It was quick, gentle, the kind of kiss that promised more to come. Eliza smiled and pulled the curtain closed. Some things were private. Some moments belonged to the people living them. But she fell asleep happy, knowing that the family she'd found was growing. 3 weeks after the trial, spring finally arrived. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown grass underneath. The creek ran high with snowmelt. Birds appeared from nowhere, filling the mornings with sound. And at Rimrock Ranch, life settled into a new rhythm. Eliza woke at dawn every day, helped with breakfast, did her lessons with Hannah until noon, spent the afternoons learning ranch work from Miguel, how to ride, how to rope, how to read the land and the sky and the cattle. Tom watched her grow, watched her fill out her cheeks going pink with health instead of hollow with hunger, watched her confidence build, her voice get stronger, her laughter come easier. She's a different child, Doc Garrett said on one of his visits. You'd never know she was the same girl I examined 2 months ago. She's the same girl. Tom's eyes followed Eliza as she practiced her roping in the corral, just finally getting a chance to be herself. Clara came to dinner twice a week now, sometimes 3 times. The whole town knew about her and Tom, and for once the gossip was kind. About time that man found someone, Mrs. Patterson said at the general store. She's good for him, her husband agreed. Good for the girl, too. Even Margaret Henderson had gone quiet. Her husband had lost his position on the school board after the trial, and the Henderson family had suddenly found themselves on the outside of Redwater society. Karma, Miguel called it. Just as Hannah said, Eliza didn't care what it was called. She was just glad it was over. But it wasn't quite over. The letter came on a Tuesday morning. Tom was in the barn when the postal rider brought it. Hannah signed for it, read the return address, and her face went pale. Tom. Her voice carried across the yard. Tom, you need to see this. He came at a run, his hand already going to his belt where his gun hung. What is it? What's wrong? Hannah held out the letter. It's from the territorial prison in Helena. Franklin's dead. The world stopped. Tom took the letter, read it once, read it again. Killed in a fight with another prisoner, he said slowly. 3 days ago. No next of kin to claim the body. Eliza had come out of the house. She stood on the porch watching their faces. What happened? Tom looked at Hannah. Hannah looked at Tom. Your uncle's dead, Tom said finally. Prison fight. It's over. Completely over. Eliza waited for something. Grief. Relief. Anger. Something. Nothing came. She felt hollow. Empty. Like a bottle someone had poured out and forgotten to fill again. Are you all right? Hannah's voice was gentle. I don't know. Eliza's own voice sounded far away. Is it bad that I don't feel sad? No, honey. Hannah crossed the yard, pulled Eliza into her arms. It's not bad. You feel whatever you feel. There's no right or wrong. Tom came up behind them. He was your blood, he said quietly. But he was never your family. You don't have to mourn someone who tried to kill you. I know. Eliza pulled back, wiped her eyes. She was crying, she realized. Not from grief, from something else. I keep thinking about what he could have been. If he'd been different, if he'd been kind. He made his choices. Tom's voice was steady. You didn't make them for him. You didn't cause them, and you don't have to carry them. Eliza nodded slowly. Can we not talk about it anymore, please? We don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Tom's hand found her shoulder. You want to go riding? Clear your head. Yeah. She wiped her face. Yeah, I'd like that. They rode out together, just the two of them, up into the hills where the snow was still thick and the air was clean and cold. They didn't talk much. Didn't need to. Some things were better said in silence. When they got back, Clara was waiting on the porch. I heard, she said. News travels fast in a small town. How's she doing? Tom dismounted, handed his reins to Miguel. Better than I expected. Clara's eyes found Eliza, who was walking her horse toward the barn. She's strong, Tom. Stronger than anyone gives her credit for. I know. Do you? Clara stepped closer. Because I've been watching her these past weeks. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. And that's because of you. Tom shook his head. It's because of her. I just gave her a chance. You gave her more than that. Clara's hand found his. You gave her a home, a family, something to believe in. She paused. You gave her hope. Tom looked toward the barn where Eliza had disappeared. Her daddy was my best friend, he said quietly. I should have been there for her from the beginning. Should have known she existed. Should have is a waste of time. Clara cut him off. What matters is what you did. You found her when she needed finding. You fought for her when she needed fighting. You loved her when she needed loving. I do love her. The words came out rough, surprised, like he'd never said them before. I didn't expect to, didn't plan on it, but she's yours now. Yeah. Tom's voice strengthened. She's mine. That night after dinner, Eliza found Tom alone on the porch. He was smoking his pipe, watching the stars come out. She sat down beside him close enough to feel his warmth. Mr. Tom. Yeah. Can I ask you something? Always. Eliza twisted her hands in her lap. What happens now? Now that Uncle Franklin's gone? Now that the trial's over? What happens? Tom was quiet for a moment. What do you want to happen? I want to stay here, forever. I want to learn how to run the ranch. I want to keep learning to read. She stopped. I want Miss Clara to be my mother. Tom's pipe nearly dropped from his mouth. What? She loves you. You love her. Everyone can see it. Eliza looked at him steadily. And she's kind to me, really kind. Not pretend kind like Uncle Franklin, real kind. Eliza. I know it's not my place to say. I know you're grown-ups and you have to decide for yourselves, but... Her voice cracked slightly. I've never had a real family, not since Mama died. And now I have you and Hannah and Miguel. But I want a mother too. Is that selfish? Tom set down his pipe. That's not selfish. That's human. He was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about asking Clara, for a while now. Just wasn't sure if it was the right time. When's the right time? I don't know. That's the problem. Tom ran his hand through his hair. I'm 58 years old. Never been married. Never thought I would be. And now you have a daughter and a ranch and a woman who loves you. Eliza leaned against his shoulder. Sounds like the right time to me. Tom laughed, an actual laugh, full and warm. When did you get so wise? I learned from watching you. She smiled up at him. Ask her, please. I know she'll say yes. You're that sure? I'm that sure. Tom looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood up. Where are you going? To talk to Clara. He paused at the porch steps. You're right. It is the right time. Eliza watched him walk toward the barn where Clara was helping Hannah with the evening milking. Her heart was pounding. What if she'd pushed too hard? What if Clara said no? What if... But she'd seen the way they looked at each other. Seen the way their hands always found each other. Seen the love that neither of them was brave enough to name. Sometimes you had to push. Sometimes you had to take the chance. 10 minutes later, Tom and Clara came out of the barn together. Clara was crying, but she was smiling too. And on her hand, catching the lamplight from the kitchen window, was a small gold ring. Eliza screamed. She was off the porch and running before she knew she'd moved. She hit Clara at full speed, wrapping her arms around the woman's waist. "You said yes." "I said yes." Clara was laughing through her tears. "I said yes." Hannah came out of the barn, took one look at the ring, and burst into tears herself. "Finally, I've been waiting months for this." "Months?" Tom looked offended. "We've only been courting for—" "You've been in love for years, you stubborn fool, ever since she came to town." Hannah hugged her brother hard. "I'm happy for you, so happy." Miguel appeared from nowhere, a bottle of whiskey in his hand. "I was saving this for a special occasion. I think this counts." They celebrated late into the night. More laughter, more stories, more moments that Eliza knew she would remember forever. And when she finally went to bed, her mother's music box in her hands, she wound it for the first time since the blizzard. The mechanism was stiff from cold and disuse. But it played. A simple melody, sweet and sad and beautiful. Eliza listened until the music wound down. Then she closed her eyes and slept without dreams. The wedding was in June. The whole town came. Even the people who'd whispered against them, even the people who'd sided with Franklin. They came with gifts and good wishes and something that might have been shame. Clara wore white. Tom wore his best suit. Eliza stood between them at the altar holding both their hands. "Do you take this woman?" Reverend Mills asked. "I do." "Do you take this man?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife." Tom kissed Clara like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it. The church erupted in cheers. And Eliza stood between her new parents, finally knowing what family meant. Not blood, not law, not obligation. Choice. The choice to love someone. The choice to fight for them. The choice to stay when staying was hard. That was family. That was home. 8 years later, Eliza stood on the porch of Rimrock Ranch and watched the sunset paint the mountains gold. She was 18 now. Tall and strong, with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. The trust fund had come to her on her birthday, $15,000 plus 8 years of interest. $23,000 all told. Enough to do something that mattered. "You're sure about this?" Tom came out to stand beside her. His hair was fully gray now, his face more weathered, but his eyes were the same, steady, kind, full of love. "I'm sure." Eliza handed him the papers she'd been holding. "I'm using the money to build a school. Right here on Rimrock land. A real school with books and desks and a proper teacher." "Clara's already a teacher." "I know. That's why I want her to run it." Eliza smiled. "Papa left me that money to build a future. What better future than giving other kids the chance I almost didn't get?" Tom read through the papers slowly. Plans for a building, a curriculum, a scholarship fund for children who couldn't afford tuition. "Your daddy would be proud." His voice was rough. "So damn proud." "I hope so." Eliza leaned against his shoulder. "I hope he knows, wherever he is. I hope he knows that the money he left me is going to help kids like me. Kids who got left behind. Kids who needed someone to believe in them. He knows." Tom's arm came around her. "I believe that with everything I am." They stood together in the fading light, father and daughter, not by blood, but by something stronger. Behind them, the ranch house glowed with lamplight. Clara was inside helping their 2 younger children with their homework. Hannah was in the kitchen still cooking after all these years. Miguel was in the barn teaching Tom's youngest son how to saddle a horse. Family. Not the one Eliza was born into. The one she'd chosen. The one that had chosen her. Mr. Tom. You can call me Pa, you know. Everyone else does. Pa! The word still felt new in her mouth. Still felt precious. Thank you. For everything. For finding me. For fighting for me. For never giving up. Tom was quiet for a moment. I made a promise to your daddy, he said finally. The day he died, I promised I'd look after his family if he ever had one. I just didn't know the family he'd have was you. I'm glad it was me. So am I. He kissed the top of her head. So am I. The sun slipped behind the mountains. The first stars appeared in the darkening sky. And somewhere out there in the vast Montana wilderness, a little girl's wish had come true. She'd found her way home. Franklin Mercer died forgotten in a prison cell. No one mourned him. No one remembered him. The name Mercer faded from Redwater's memory like snow melting in spring. But the name, Hartley, that one lasted. Tom lived to see his grandchildren born. Lived to see Eliza's school grow from 1 room to 3. Lived to see the legacy he'd built with William Mercer become something bigger than either of them had dreamed. He died in his sleep at 82. Clara beside him, Eliza holding his hand. His last words were simple. Keep the promise. She did. The school became an academy. The academy became a foundation. Children from all over the territory came to learn to grow, to become something more than their circumstances had allowed. And above the main door, carved in letters you could read from 100 yards away, was a simple inscription. Family isn't blood. It's who shows up when the snow's coming down. Tom Hartley had shown up. And because of that, 1,000 children found their way home. That's the truth of it. Not all families are born. Some are built one choice at a time, one promise at a time, one act of love at a time. The best families. Those are the ones you fight for. Those are the ones that last.